Thanks for tuning in to Walking in Victory, a podcast that's about giving people a platform to share their story. On this show, you can expect vulnerable testimonies and honest conversations. Walking in Victory is here to inspire others to boldly share their stories, find healing, and learn wisdom that is applicable to everyday life. This show is geared towards young adults in their 20s and 30s who follow Jesus and to those who are curious about him. Ultimately, this podcast is here to inspire you to walk in the victory and flourishing that God has called you. With that in mind, let's jump into this week's episode of Walking in Victory.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I'll let you take the lead.
oh man, you share your story, Phil. Do it up.
Oh, do we want to start with that? Okay.
Yeah, man.
All right.
What
All
you
right. Well, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, which you should know that. I've lived in a small little town and grew up in a Christian home, and my parents were, I would say, somewhat strict. To get out of the house was definitely a challenge, but we were honestly pretty busy with sports and stuff. Like I played a lot of baseball. But we went to, youth group Wednesday nights, church Sunday morning, always. Even if we wanted to try to get out of it, my mom was like, "No, you're going." Or like we tried to stay out Saturday night to be like, "Oh, Mom, I'm so tired." And she's like, "No, you're going anyways." So that was the kind of the thing.
So you were kind of forced into it, would you say, or no?
Oh, for sure.
This is what we do. You're
but
my child.
I also brought like I had cousins who went. I had tons of friends. I mean, friends who moved from. Obviously, we live in Columbus now, so from Cleveland to Columbus. But yeah, it was we with youth group we were in, when I was really little, we'd do Royal Rangers, which is like Boy Scouts, and so it wasn't like, oh my gosh, we're going to church. Maybe sometimes, but for the most part, I loved going, partially because I had so many friends. I mean, youth group was chaos. It was great. Played dodgeball, and summer times were the best, and we got on snowboard in the winter. Yeah, no, it was really good community. But there was definitely challenges. I remember I had my Christian group of friends and then my secular group of friends, and obviously the secular mostly came from school, so that was always interesting. So
you would see yourself kind of having the battle, right, between how do I act in front of my Christian friends, how do I act in front of my secular friends, and this is you're talking about elementary, you're talking about middle school, even up into high school.
Oh yeah, all through it, yeah.
Because would you say you were in youth group up until high school, or was there a time where you stopped?
Youth group went to after you graduate high school, yeah.
Okay, but then so you just kind of were raised into the faith. Did you feel like you were a rebel at all in high school though? Would you?
Oh, I was a rebel. I want not a hardcore crazy stuff, but I mean specifically my mom. I always wanted to okay, one of the biggest things, if we take out all the stories, the craziness that happened, one of the biggest stories is my and I've told you this before, is the frustration that I had with my mom regarding music. So obviously I was a drummer. I played drums for church, and I was in a band that was all college kids going to bars and clubs, and I'm 15 years old. I was at Lava Recording Studios at 15. My dad slept on the couch at 1 a.m, and then he went to work the next day. Talk about a loving father, someone who really cared. I played with them for I think it was a year or whatever. And how it ended was literally my mom saying, my mom and my dad saying, you're not playing anymore. You're not, this is not a good group. Now, to be fair, some of the things they were doing were definitely not good. But what was so crazy, and I think this is actually so awesome how God protects you even in dark moments, is one of the guys in the group who was basically writing all the music, everything besides the drums. He would actually tell me places to go and not to go. There was a party that they were throwing, and Vince is the guy in the band was you're not going to this event. There's gonna be some things there you shouldn't go, drugs. And anyway, so probably my biggest resentment, at least at the time, against my own parents was when that happened, and that's when I really started to kick in. I was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. I mean, that's when I started smoking weed for like a year. I was like, no, screw you. Like I'm gonna go do what I
This is in
want.
high school?
Yeah, I was a freshman. Yeah.
So you felt like more rules made you want to rebel even more.
More rules, and also I didn't know this at the time, but it was more of the not the what, but the why. Oh, I can't drink. Like, why? Oh, because I said so. Like, just things that every
Mm,
kid deals with. Like, who cares what the what is? It's the why. I mean, even if you look at like what it says in the Bible, when you look at things that some people, especially non-Christians, look at like, oh my goodness, all these rules. Well, there's a big why. There's a reason behind it. You know, there's a structure. There's a purpose. If I hopefully when I have kids, that's something that I'm not gonna just teach the what. I'm gonna teach the why
yeah.
because it drove me nuts in high school. So that was kind of one of the biggest things I struggled
Yeah,
with. Yeah.
no kid wants to hear because I said so.
No.
That's,
Yeah.
I know even I went through that a lot, I feel like with
Sure.
my mom and stuff, but I think it takes intentionality to explain to your child why this isn't a good idea,
Yeah.
and there maybe even offer a better solution rather than just don't do this, just stop doing this.
Yeah.
Say, how about do this instead? Because this will bring flourishing in your life rather than going down the wrong path. So it takes intentionality from your parents too, and I think that's tough as a kid when you just like you're trying to figure things out and you just get told no.
Yeah.
Basically, more rules make you want to rebel even more, right? And as we know in our faith now, though, it's like what God has us not do is for our flourishing. You know, you don't want to lie, you don't want to steal, you do want to wait till marriage. Why? Because this will guide your life and make it flourish and abundant for you and for the people around you. And so sometimes we want to be curious and see what's out there when we're young, especially.
Oh
I
yeah.
think a lot of us have been through that. A lot of people could relate to that. But
Sure.
yeah, so you were in high school and then you went and you graduated. You went to Florida. I know that.
So yeah.
This is the part where you kind of get even more wild, or no?
Yeah, but okay. So at first it was Wisconsin.
Oh.
So I really wanted to play, college ball. And I ended up playing for
Baseball.
this, yeah, baseball. And I wanted to play at some school. Well, I sent it to the wrong school. It ended up being a school in Wisconsin with the same exact name, which was crazy. But it was actually really cool too, because it threw me out in the middle of nowhere. And I remember the day that my parents left and I was just in like Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I was like, what the heck am I doing here right now? And my roommate, Justin at the time, was like such a great guy. He was always there to comfort me through my issues that I was going on at the moment. But that's probably like when I realized like, oh, I have some serious freedom here. And that's not the first time I got drunk, but definitely I would drink a little bit more in those times. And actually, I didn't really smoke any weed. And to be fair, I only smoked weed for like maybe a year that I was in high school consistently. Then I stopped. And actually, the reason was for my grades, which we've talked about. I saw
Gotcha.
my grades go down. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Wisconsin. And
Wisconsin for a year, and then I went and I was like, I need to go do something else. And so I ended up going to Florida, where I went to Full Sail, got a music production degree, and I lived there for 3 years. And it was definitely my crazy time. I drank definitely too much. I definitely didn't have many Christian friends. I had one really good one, and him and I hung out probably like a couple times a month, but it wasn't enough. And if I was gonna go hang out with someone, there was a couple friends that I was gonna stick around, and though they did help me through a lot of trying to avoid really dumb decisions, which I would say mostly they succeeded at, I definitely wanted to be a rebel and kind of do what I want. It was more honestly selfish living than selfless. I even had, and actually this was kind of crazy. I don't know what year it was. Maybe it was the second year of school at Full Sail. I was in class with my buddy who was saved, and I actually had a ton of guilt that day, and I was wondering why. And I actually, looking back at it, it was like I knew what I was doing, like after school, before school, And I was like, oh my goodness. And so I actually told my buddies, like, hey, we need to talk after class. And I just like bawled my eyes out. And I just told him, hey, I've been doing X, Y, and Z. And like, you're the only Christian I know around here. Like, we need to talk, chat. And he was like all on board. He's like, yeah, let's talk. And it was really cool, actually.
What was making you feel the guilt, though? What was the
It was mostly
XYZ?
drinking.
Yeah.
Mostly drinking or like just bad relationships with girls, like
Yeah.
doing things I shouldn't have been doing. The guilt was definitely building up over time. And what's so funny was a lot of my friends back home would call me and just, oh, how you doing, whatever. And then we get into the nitty gritty, and they're like, oh, well, why are you doing this? And though they were great, you know, it's one thing to have a friend that's like 1,000 miles away that calls you. That's great. But you need someone that's actually by you, like next to you, who's walking life with you. Doesn't mean you need to see him every day, but that was my problem. And so I just, you know, I mean, one of the questions was like, you know, how do you feel during these moments that you just keep doing it? And I almost was like, I would rather feel the pleasure and ignore the guilt and everything else and the shame or whatever, and just keep doing it. And yet again, it was just being selfish, you know, that was my life. Though there was a lot of good moments, and I don't regret it in the slightest because it's who I am today. Like I've completely changed because of that. You know, so, you know, you're either learning through someone or experience, and sometimes a mixture of both. When you're living selfishly, it's basically experience, and that's how I lived when I was in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, you live and you learn, and
Yeah.
you build upon those experiences. But you know, I've had conversations with other friends, and it's a similar thing where people were getting to college, they get away from that accountability from their Christian community,
Their peers, yeah.
Yeah, and once you kind of get out in the isolation, and you have the world to explore and all that. I mean, it's just a combination for disaster, right? So the basis and the moral of that story is really you need that community and accountability in your life, no matter what age you are, no matter what stage of life you're in, because you get away from that and it's just easy to drift away, you know?
And I had one of my friends' family was down in that area, specifically when I was in Orlando, and they encouraged me to go to their church, which I went, not every week, but I went. And multiple times I tried to make friends with people my age. But what I didn't realize was like, sometimes things connect with people, sometimes it doesn't. You know, you might try to really make friends with someone, it doesn't work out. And I, within like 6 months, almost gave up on that, like with the specific church making friends. I even made excuses up in my mind, like, oh, like no one cares, or just dumb excuses, you know. It was mostly because I wanted to do what I wanted to do, to be honest.
Deep down, you knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be in places that I wasn't allowed in before, or that I could be entertained. I could do things that I want, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But what would you say one was like? Because you was raised Christian, kind of had a rebellious stage in high school, kind of even got more out there and rebellious in college. Was there a moment when you were like, no, I actually really need Jesus. I need to repent. I need to come back to my ways.
So, before I moved back to Ohio, I had stuff going on with my dad because he had, you know, cancer at the time. And I was like, you know, I asked him, I was like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to come back? You know, and he straight up was like, I want you to go enjoy life, do things that you want to do. And I don't actually think, like deep down, I want to go back to spend time with my dad. But even more, I think there was a underlying accountability that was kind of sitting in. I was like, oh, like I actually do want to follow God, and I don't want to live this life, because it's like almost living like a fake life. Because I've always believed in God. Like I experienced the Holy Spirit from a young age. Like I've had some great like Christian camps, youth group events, playing drums for the church, so many amazing moments, healing moments, really some cool stuff. And to leave that was almost, it felt like I was like I wasn't who I was supposed to be, or what I was, you know, I was just living a fake life in a way. At least that's what it felt like. So I would say maybe 6 months before I moved back to Ohio is kind of when things started to change. And maybe some of that too was communicating with friends a little more from back home. And then when I moved back home, it dramatically changed how much I'm praying. Like basically, I really wasn't reading the Word at all when I was in Florida. Maybe at times, outside of church a little bit here and there, but for the most part, I wasn't. And when I got back to Ohio, I definitely was. And so that was kind of the change, but it was over maybe 6+ months.
So it wasn't like a boom, instantaneous moment. It was this conviction that you felt within for a while that you actually started to listen to, started to fart, right? Yeah. That's what I was going to say, fart, right? Started to listen to, though. Yeah. And then you were like, man, I just needed to take small steps to get back to the Lord, at least in my mind, because I feel like in my mind I drifted away. He's always been there. He's always been there no matter where I've been and what I was doing. But in my own mind, I feel like I've drifted away. I need to take steps to get back. That's how you felt.
And I knew God was with me in those dark spots too. Matter of fact, I really believe he seriously protected me. For all the dumb things that I had done or did affect me, it could have been way worse, way worse. It's not like I was some crazy rebel doing nuts stuff, but it was enough that I'm like, this is not what I shouldn't have been doing, but I wanted so bad at the time, the rebel in me,
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so when you came back, I know that you said you were talking to your dad about right before you were coming back, but I know that you had that experience too of losing your father. How did that affect you in your faith? And when was that? When did that happen?
So my dad passed away in 2016. I think it was October. It was tough. But my emotions are very much delayed. For me to experience something or to realize it happened emotionally sometimes takes time, and you've seen this out of me. That's why you're sitting there laughing over there. But my dad, when he passed, the first thing that came to my mind is I can't be mad at God because it's not worth the time. I'm not going to ask him questions I'm not going to ask the why. And still this day, I don't. I kind of wish, I spent so much time with my dad with baseball. He would take me to so many baseball events, hours away, different states. So I spent a ton of time with my dad. It was great. But when he passed, I knew that I had to accept the reality. And so I tried to just instantly click with it. And there was definitely moments where I'd go back in my room and just bawl my eyes out or whatever. And I definitely had so many friends. That's the biggest thing too, is the support group was seriously there. I don't know how other people who I know who don't have the support group, how do they do it? Because no matter what I was going through, I could call someone on the phone. And that's what I do. When I seriously have problems, I'm calling someone on the phone. Even if it's to to numb the moment, because the pain really hurts. And there at the time I was pretty ticked. One of the things that came from that was the lifestyle, not just what's coming out of my mouth or the alcohol consumption, but it was what am I eating or health things, what should I be looking for? Everything changed from there. That was kind of the biggest shift in my life when it comes to any of that kind of, because me, I'm kind of a health nut. I eat really well, eat pretty clean, and though I still drink here and there, I'm pretty strict on that. But
yeah, because you had this awareness of cancer can happen to anybody. And I witnessed my dad go through it and not make it out, and then you had this awareness of I better start keeping track of what I'm eating and putting into my body, right?
Yeah. Well, the idea of you think you're invincible when you're healthy, but at the moment that you're not healthy, and everyone experiences it at some point in their life. But I know when I'm sick, goodness gracious, I fall apart so fast. So for me,
that's a segue into you've had recent health problems and things that you struggled with over the past couple years actually, and knowing you as a friend, I've seen the ups and downs in your life, but how has God been working in those trials of your own health issues, and what were those health issues?
So I had two different things going on. I had mold in me from my apartment, and I had a virus I was dealing with. And both of things I didn't know how to face, because my dad actually, besides cancer, dealt with a virus when, I don't know how old he was at the time, but he almost lost his life from that. And so when I found out I had a virus in me, I was like, oh my gosh. Because what was going on, for the people who don't know, basically, like, I had no energy. I'd be sitting there at work, passing out. I would drive to the grocery store 2 minutes away, like, passing out at the steering wheel. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, I'm dying here, something, you know? And we did tons of tests, and there was no cancer. It was just mold, 2 different types of molds, and a virus. And so first we dealt with the virus, and it was like no sugar for 6 months, change of diet, which my diet was already decent, but I really went strict, like hardcore, just like no extra stuff ever. I actually did not go out, basically. When my friends went out, I would go out, but I would eat first, you know? And you would probably remember that, but yeah. Then I went through a 11-month detox, which was like I went through this. They're called Cellcore, and they have like a protocol. It's like one of the biggest ones they have, and it was crazy. I went from 170 pounds to 130 pounds. So during that time too, because mold has a lot of symptoms or side effects from it, my body was so tight that I like would walk and almost feel like I'm gonna like pull my hammy or dumb things, you know. And I didn't know what was going on at the time. But August of 22 is when I messed up both of my shoulders. I was doing bench, then I went to do pull-ups, and I partially tore my right subscap, and I got tendonitis, whatever, in both shoulders over time. And I didn't know, and I'm still dealing with that now, which I think we have the potential solution for. We're working through it. But yeah, no, that whole experience was tough, but I would say if there's anything I really struggle with is I like to be super, like, time is my most valuable thing to me. Like, everything is about efficiency in my life. And God, I don't know if I prayed for this, like, before this all started, or maybe I subconsciously was, because all I got or learned through this, like, through the main thing besides health, was, like, patience. Like, you literally have to only rely on God, because there was multiple nights where I wanted to freak out. You know, and I'm like, I the only way through this is to, like, give it to God. And, like, I gave up everything. My favorite thing to do in the world is drums. I have not consistently played drums since August of 22. It's now freaking 2024. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I mean, I played 2 services for Rock City, and the second one I was injured. And I remember telling the leaders at Rock City, like, I'm so sorry, like, I can't play. And so it's basically patience. If there's anything I can take out of it, and just giving it to the Lord, because I mean, you can do so many things at home, eat right, this and that, but truly, like, it's all up to giving it to the Lord. And I was very subconscious. Like, I was self-conscious about losing all my weight. I still am. Like, I went from 170 to 130. Now I'm back up to like 142. I'm finally working out again. Things are actually getting better now. Like, I feel I have energy again, and I praise the Lord for that, because I seriously was going down I could have been gone in 5 years. That's what the doc told me. Because most people, like, don't experience mold or this type of virus that I had or all these other things. So sometimes you just have to go through it to know, you know, the deadliness of it. Mm. Especially with the current medical world, where they don't really listen to things that are, they have their set things that they're told, and then they explain it to the world. And if it's not within those parameters, then they're like, sorry, you don't really have an issue. And that was my first response when I went to doctors about it. But I have a holistic doctor who has a totally different approach, and thank goodness we found what the problems were. I moved, which was great. Love my new place.
Because you had mold in the old apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, and I had to, like, spend a ton of money to clean my clothes, and, you know, that whole thing just sucked, you know, get my new place tested. So there was a bunch of stuff that I went through that, and it was tough. It really sucked. The past 2 years have been probably the worst and best years of my life, truthfully.
Worst and best?
Yeah.
How in the best?
Honestly, like, this sounds like too simplified, but like manning up to it, like grow up. You're going to go through some stuff you don't like, and you're going to have to like do things in life and take out the stuff that you really love. Like, I really love playing drums. Like, if you said right now, Vince, you can go play drums, I'd be like, peace, dude, I'm going to go play. Because I want to play drums so bad and not have pain in my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it kills me. But I know like the day that my shoulders get good enough to be able to play again, I'm going to glorify God and thank him for giving my shoulders back. And I look forward to that. So
you see you say the good, as in you see even the trials as a blessing.
Yeah.
Because they've taught you so many good lessons and strengthened you actually.
Yeah,
through
hardcore
that.
For sure.
So there's something to be thankful for even in the midst of trials, as James says, in the book of James. So it's almost like accepting that and saying, you know what, I'm going to fully embrace whatever I'm going through because I know God's with me and I know it's for my good. So I want to take the sacrifice and patience right now because I there's things that I'm waiting to do that I really enjoy, and I'm going to learn patience through trials and tribulations. So kudos to you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. It was and is still tough, but
so with everything you've gone through in the past couple of years, how does that affect your current day life, with when it comes to relationships or with friendships or going to church or doing hobbies?
Yeah.
Today, where are you at in your headspace and with all those things?
Well,
do you feel like you have to wait until all this gets done and over with before you can live a normal life, or do you feel like you can live like a normal life now?
That's a really good question because I always, especially for with the shoulders, like no eating sugar, all that stuff. I actually like basically took out my social life to some degree, whether it was drinking, no sugar, whatever it was. And so I realized through that, you can't just stop your life. There are certain aspects of your life you have to continue. That's just how it is. And I would say to some degree I'm a perfectionist. Like I want the things that I want and I want it done my way. And so that being said, I've learned through this process that's not the case at all. Like you can't live life like that, And so drums I want to do, I can't do, but I'm going to work through it. And I still make music. I still record stuff that I can do. Like I play a little guitar. So yeah, there's certain limitations in my life right now. No doubt there. But mentally I'm way better than I was before. And I'm way stronger. So I know the next big challenge, because there's going to be other bigger challenges, probably going to be way harder. That God is preparing me for, whatever that looks like. So I think I'm more adaptable now. I can move in and out of things and be okay when there's a real problem, whether it's a family problem or health problem or whatever. I can really deal with it better. And the first thing I'll do is give it to the Lord and be okay with the downside of whatever that downside is. So I'll bring this up just because I think it was one of my ways to kind of work through it. So I had a motorcycle for literally less than a year. You knew that. And that was one of my ways where I couldn't work out. I couldn't play sports. It was one of my ways to feel like when I was 15 again on my dirt bike. And though I sold the bike now, I did that specifically because while I was like able to play pickleball again, I could do some basic working out. I realized like I can't. One, obviously you shouldn't be living in the past, but you also, like for me, I am definitely stubborn. So being able to adapt was, you kind of just have to do it,
Yeah, you still found ways to enjoy yourself, even though it wasn't drums.
Yeah.
Or things that you used to do. You adapted and you found ways because you had to. You don't have a choice. You either isolate yourself for however long it
takes.
Which
I did for a while.
Yeah, because I remember having those conversations like, I just want to wait till this is done until...
Yeah.
And then I'll go out and do
Bury my head in the sand.
Yeah, and I think that's a temptation when you're going through something, or maybe you have like shame about like your weight loss, for example. You know, it's like, man, maybe I'm not ready to date or anything right now, or to live my full life because of all these things going on, or if I have to tell someone about it, maybe they'll look down on me, like there's all those thoughts that come into your mind, and you wrestle through them, but then you realize, man, I just can't stay here. I can't just have this mindset forever. I have to move forward with my life.
Yeah.
Every day is a blessing, and I'm getting older every year and every day, right? So like I have to take advantage of the time that I have right now with what God has given me, despite my circumstances. And I commend you for that, man. I think that's good stuff. I think, you have made improvements from where you were mentally to where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And so where do you see like your future? Like, where do you see yourself in 2-3 years? You know, do you feel like
10 kids,
wife, living in a mansion, you have your own yacht? No, I know you have a goal to.
Yeah.
I know you like, what is it called? Water skiing type thing?
Yeah, wakeboarding, all that stuff. Yeah.
You want to have a place out there. Yeah.
I don't know how much stuff we want to get into on that, but like I have big goals, both financial and personal. And the biggest thing, I guess, right now, the weirdest thing about this is I always struggled with my finances up until I really stuck to one thing. Now that is going okay, everything else I've had to like slowly deal with over time, just chip away at it. Nothing has been overnight. And the biggest thing for like in 2023, going through all the chaos of that detox and basically getting out of the mold and the virus, I told myself I want to build my relationships and get closer to God through that process. And I definitely accomplished that. And the relationships wasn't just dating, it was friendships and all that jazz. And actually, oddly enough, the later end portion of this detox, I found a Bible study, which was exactly what I needed to see. I needed to see people, actually most of them are a little bit younger than me, basically all married couples, and I got to see that lens, like something, because I want a family eventually, and I got to see that through this new Bible study, and I'm still in the group now, and it's amazing. They're dope, and so that's been a blessing, but.
Yeah. You have goals, financial goals, family goals, all those things, and think you're on your way,
Yeah,
to
I'm
reach
on my
those.
way. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna, this year is the year. A couple big things I think will happen eventually, both financially with work, specifically like certifications, and then personally, hopefully with relationships, moving that all forward. And I really look forward to it. I mean, I'm looking to 2024 as a great opportunity to do well. And though there's definitely discouragement in days and like good and bad days, whatever, overall I'm ready. I'm ready to kill it.
That's good.
I've went from I was living in fear, 100% fear before, and now I don't really do that as much as I did before. I'm not really on the salsa floor, right now, as you might love. But
that's your one of your goals for 2024, right? Get out there on the salsa.
I was thinking like 3024 maybe. That's what I'll get into.
AKA never, huh? That's all good. I'll quit bugging you about it. Maybe I'll just knock you out one day and then drag you there, and then like you'll wake up and
I wake up in the morning and like my bed is just in the middle of the dance floor, and Sean's just like, all right, let's get.
We have all like a dance circle around you.
Like, jeez.
Yeah, that's all it's gonna take. Right?
I shouldn't be giving you ideas. Good thing you don't have access to my apartment.
That's funny.
But
thank you, man. No, thanks for sharing. Speaking of 2024 and just that time of year, people have these New Year's resolutions and all that. Mm-hmm. What's a good word, man, for the people, or what's been on your mind that the Lord's teaching you that you think someone could benefit from? Just like a topic or like a word or anything good for the people to hear.
Well, just like 2023 for me was all about the relationships. I want to continue that, and I would tell other people that you need to like have those strong, solid friends that are Christians all around you, because that is the thing that's going to keep you on the straight and narrow. Because if you don't have and like being able to like be honest when you struggle, like you and I have had very, very tough, some of the most tough conversations ever, and it gets dark quick. And so I think people need to realize no one's life's perfect, and so be okay to open up with friends. And I have 2 or 3 friends, including you, who I open up to, and so I guess those are the 2 things: relationships and being able to open up with someone about that. Because it's, you're going to, when you make a mistake, maybe you go out and have too many drinks. Maybe you drop the F-bomb and, in the middle of work, you're like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have said that, or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to go up to someone and be like, I need to talk about this and help me through this, because you can't do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely been freeing when I can talk to friends about my struggles and not feel ashamed about it, because that's huge. It's like, when in the moment you do something dumb, you feel ashamed. You feel like, why did I just do that? Like, I've done this like 30,000 times or whatever. But knowing like there's grace and that you have supportive friends around you, like they want to help you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're your friends for a reason, And for, I guess, the other side of that coin, for people who struggle with this, if you've reached out to people and they don't want to be around you, they'll make it very clear by the next night texting you,
Mm-hmm.
And actually that's, maybe that was another one too, that at least for me, because I, both experiencing it in my personal life and some other friends, have seen that, like, you really need to reach out to people, one, and then be okay when you don't get the response, like, because people are going to respond how they want to respond, so you just got to accept it and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's kind of actually that's probably one of the biggest things too as well, being able to adapt to that, because life is not going to go how you want it,
Yeah.
One of the dumb things I used to do is, like, when I'd go out with friends, expect a certain way the night would go, whether it was going out, for food or drinks or whatever it was. And I realized at the end of the night, I was really like mad, like, because, oh man, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. And I remember, this was more when I came back from Florida, there was one night that did not go well. And my buddy was like, dude, you've been like mad all night. And I realized, I was like, because I had some expectation. And I think in life, you can't have those. You can have goals and you can shoot for those and make sure you're strict and have people be accountable, but it's never going to work perfect. So, being perfect for now on is just not something that I'm living by, and God doesn't expect you to be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, even talking right now, like, before we talked about being on the podcast, like, I'm such the type of person that I would love to just like sit there for 4 hours and like practice things. I didn't do that at all. I was like, no, I'm going to just say it.
Just talk.
And things aren't going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so that's how I'm
That's
doing
life.
24.
That's life, man. So cultivate relationships and pour into the people that are caring for you, because everything just in life is like a garden in a way. You have to maintain it, and you have to go and plant new seeds, and so I think that's a good word, because even last night I had some friends over and just speaking with them and having an in-depth conversation for a couple hours. Like, we just pour into each other and we sharpen each other, and it really just, you can't do life alone. Like you said, you need that community. So continue to cultivate those relationships, be intentional in seeking new friends if you don't have those, and for the ones you find, man, keep them, man. So
sure,
that's good stuff. And also, if you're listening or watching, you should subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on podcasts, just give it a rating and review. Really appreciate it. But thank you for listening to Walking in Victory, and thank you, Vince, for coming on and sharing your story, man. We appreciate you.
Of course, anytime.
God bless.
Peace.